Shalom, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, we give all praises, honors, and glories unto Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, Bahashem, Raha Kodash, the bloodless my apostles and elders of Great Millstone that doing even well. Peace, blessings, and salutations be unto the members of the elect, the hopeful elect, and the 1/3. Shalom. This is Brother Dawadah from the GMS Detroit camp, coming out with another video through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, Bahashem, Raha Kodash. Today, this will be another in transit video. All right, and the title or the topic of this lesson will be on so-called Thanksgiving. Which I'm not going to go too in depth into, its origins or anything like that. Maybe that'd be a video for another time. But this video, all right, is concerning Jake and Jake's ignorance. Which the word ignorant does not mean stupid. The word ignorant means to not know. All right? The word ignorant, once again, doesn't mean stupid. It means to not know. All right? Which the majority of our people are indeed ignorant. They have no clue what's going on. All right? They have no clue, all right, that this so-called holiday that they want to observe is actually celebrating and commemorating, all right, the slaughter of the North American Indian, which is the tribe of Gad. Is commemorating, all right, the wickedness that they did, all right, to your fellow Israelites. But our people are simple, as is written, for my people is foolish, they have not known me. All right, they are all sottish children, they have no understanding. Roughly paraphrasing the scripture. And that's the state that the majority of our people are in. That was Jeremiah 4:22. The majority of our people are extremely ignorant. They have no clue what's going on. They celebrate these different so-called holidays, all right, not understanding their origin. They just want to follow. Jake is very impressionable. Jake want to follow what everyone else is doing because they don't like being left out. They like feeling included. They like feeling loved, especially by these other nations. So they'll do anything that these other nations do to get that affection. That's just the state that our people are in. But the scriptures say what? Be not ignorant in any matter, whether small nor great. All right? So you're supposed to look into these different matters. Okay, let me look into this. Okay, let me look into that. Okay, what's the origins of Christmas? What's the origin of Thanksgiving? What's the origins of Easter? Which these three so-called holidays, that's one of the most major so-called holidays that are observed over here in America. Christmas, Thanksgiving, you can throw Halloween up in there, and then Easter. That's like the top 4 holidays, which all four either go back to paganism, all right, or goes back to some form of wickedness, that was done to our people, But Jake don't know this. Why? Because Jake doesn't like to look into things. As is written, the children of this world in their generation are wiser than the children of light. See, Esau, he actually looks into things. He knows the origin of Christmas. He knows the origin of Thanksgiving, Easter, Halloween, so on and so forth. He knows the origins of these different so-called holy days. All right? Esau knows this, but Jake don't know. Why? Jeremiah 4:22, for my people is foolish, they have not known me. They are all sottish children. Sottish means stupid. They have none understanding. You ask the average Jake, hey, why do you keep Thanksgiving? What's it all about? What was the first Thanksgiving about? And they'll tell you all types of nonsense. Oh, it's all about giving thanks to God and being thankful for your family. No, it's not. No, it's not. This is why you need to go into your history. All right? Because this so-called white man that Jake loves to uphold, to support, to praise, look what he did to your fellow Israelites. All right, the tribe of Gad. Especially these different presidents. Andrew Jackson, that demon, he had the name, they gave him the nickname, the Indian Killer. See? And I believe he was the same president, the same devil that was responsible for forcing Gad to travel all those miles during what they call the Trail of Tears. Forcing Gad to travel in the snow. All right? Yeah, women, children, the elderly. All right? So on and so forth. traveling on this long journey just because of Esau. He can kick you out your land and then put his name right on your land. Then turn around and sell it to you. Then tell you where you can live. Ain't that something? You know? But our people don't, even when you tell this to our people, they'll still try to observe these holidays. All right? They'll still try to observe these holidays. Why? Because they want to be like unto the heathen. What does it say in Jeremiah the 10th chapter? All right? It speaks about the customs of the heathen. All right? And not following after the customs of the heathen. But our people instead cling to the customs of the heathen because they want to be like them so bad. You see? But Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua has given us our holy days for us to keep. But Jake don't want to keep that, but Jake will keep Christmas. Jake will keep Thanksgiving and Halloween and all these other different so-called holidays instead of keeping what the Heavenly Father told them to keep. That's why the Lord said what? He said, they are wise to do evil. Jake know how to deck the different Christmas tree and make it look all nice. But it says what? To do good, they have no knowledge. When it comes to righteousness, doing the right thing, following the laws, statutes, and commandments, Jake all of a sudden got no clue what to do. You ask Jake how to keep the Passover. He can't even tell you what the Passover means. He can't tell you what it's about. He can't tell you about the first Passover. But Jake can tell you everything about so-called Christmas. That's the state that our people are in. Now, since the Spirit got me on this topic and I reached my destination, when you type in concerning so-called Thanksgiving, there are multiple different Thanksgivings every year. All right? Commemorating what they did to God in their wickedness. Thanksgiving is nothing for you Jakes to be celebrating. As if it's so righteous, as if it's about giving thanks to the Most High. Right? It says, the true story behind Thanksgiving is a bloody one. That's lucky. Some people say it's time to cancel the holiday. Alright? It says school children acting in the first Thanksgiving skit in 1963. It says, American mythology holds that Pilgrims and Native Americans united 401 years ago for the first Thanksgiving. But the peace didn't last. The settlers and native people were at war a generation later. To some, the holiday is only a reminder of oppression experienced by Native Americans. Thanksgiving in the U.S. is traditionally a time for family and food. American school children typically learn that the tradition dates back to the Pilgrims who helped establish Plymouth Colony in 1620 in what is now Massachusetts. As the story goes, friendly Native Americans taught the struggling colonists. We look up this word colonists. Colonist is not a good word. It's not a nice word. All right. Let's see. Let me try it this way. Colonize. Maybe that'll give us more. There we go. Colonize. All right. Which means what? Of a country or its citizens send a group of settlers, right, to a place, that'll be America, and establish political control over it. In other words, they take over. All right. Come to settle among and establish political control over the indigenous people of an area, to take over an area. Just to put it simply. See, because when you look up the word colonist, it says a member or inhabitant of a colony, right? A person who migrates to and settles in a foreign land as part of a colony. But it goes deeper than that. All right? Because a colonist is one who colonizes, which means to do what? Come to settle among and establish political control. See? Over the indigenous people of an area. They've come to take over. Appropriate a place or domain for one's own use. What about the people that was originally there? What about their use for the area? They take it over. Colonized. It says to take control of a people or area, especially as an extension of state power. See? To take over. All right? Why do people colonize? The opportunity to make money was one of the primary motivators for the colonization of the New World. See, so which the New World is the Americas. So they took it over, even though it didn't originally belong to them. So that's actually the real definition of colonist. All right, at least when it pertains to what the so-called white man did to the North American Indian, which is a tribe of Gad. As the story goes, friendly Native Americans taught the struggling colonists how to survive in what the Europeans called the New World. Then everyone got together to celebrate with the feast in 1621. Thanksgiving 2022 will mark the 401st anniversary of that first American Thanksgiving. But in reality, Thanksgiving feasts predate, pre meaning before, and then you got the word date. So it goes before the date. Plymouth and the peace celebrated that day was tenuous. So in this word, tenuous. Which means very weak or slight. So I'm sure as we read down, we'll see what they're talking about. The real story behind the holiday is so dark, in fact, that some people are rethinking how they celebrate the holiday or whether they should at all. Settlers in Berkeley Hundred in what is now Virginia celebrated their arrival with a Thanksgiving as far back as 1619, according to National Geographic. But the Washingtonian reported the meal was probably little more than some oysters and ham thrown together. It says, I'm trying to find the point here. Let's see. Well, let's keep reading, because some of it's good. It says, decades before that, Spanish settlers and members of the Sealor tribe broke bread in Florida with salted pork, which is unlawful, garbanzo beans, and a mass in 1565, according to the National Park Service. Which, what do the scriptures say? No hand join the hand, the wicked shall not go unpunished. Scriptures also say, never trust thine enemy. Let's grab that. Sirach 12, I think it is, in the Apocrypha. Sirach 12 and 10. Never trust thine enemy. Gad trusted the so-called white man. What did he do? He broke over 500 plus peace treaties with Gad. For like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, hey, let's celebrate together, right? Yet take good heed and beware of him. Thou shalt be unto him as if thou hadst wiped a looking glass. And thou shalt know that his rust hath not been altogether wiped away. See? Set him not by thee. Set him not by thee. Least when he hath overthrown thee, did he not overthrow Gad? He stand up in thy place. And that's literal. Esau literally is standing up in the place of Gad. All right? That same position Gad was in, having control over America, now Esau stands in that place. Now he controls America. Neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat, and thou at the last remember my words, and be pricked therewith. Who would pity a charmer that is bitten with a serpent? See? Or any such as come nigh wild beasts. So one that goeth to a sinner. Is Esau not the man of sin? and is defiled with him in his sins, who will pity? For a while he will abide with thee. Yeah, just like that so-called Thanksgiving, right? But if thou begin to fall, he will not tarry. Okay? Now let's go back. Decades before that, oh, Slacky, we already read that. Our modern definition of Thanksgiving revolves around eating turkey. But this was more of an occasion for religious observances in past centuries. I want to hop down. Others pinpoint 1637 as the true origins of Thanksgiving, since Massachusetts Bay Colony's governor, John Winthrop, declared a day to celebrate colonial soldiers who had just slaughtered hundreds of Pequot men. Pequot is one of the so-called tribes of Gad, all right? One of the tribes of the North American Indian. So they just got done slaughtering hundreds of Pequot men, women, and children in what is now Mystic, Connecticut, all right? Which a lot of people pinpoint this slaughtering of Gad as the beginning, right, of the so-called Thanksgiving, which is really Thanksgiving, because really they're celebrating what they did to Gad. Native history, its Memorial Day is 1637. The Pequot Massacre happened. Memorial Day weekend on May 26, 1637, a Puritan force fortified by Native allies massacred a Pequot fort in Connecticut, killing as many as 500 men, women, and children. See? Just the senseless killing of people. Okay? Let me see. Let's read a little bit of this. It says, this day in Native history, on May 26, 1637, a Puritan force fortified by Native allies massacred a Pequot fort in Connecticut, killing as many as 500 men, women, and children, and burning the village to the ground. The pre-dawn attack on Mystic Fort marked the first time the Pequot were defeated, said Kevin McBride, an anthropology professor at the University of Connecticut and director of research at the Mashantucket Pequot Museum and Research Center. The massacre was marked a turning point in the Pequot War, a 3-year war over the tribe's traditional land, about 250 square miles in southeastern Connecticut, and the first major conflict between colonists and American Indians in New England. For the first, quote, for the first 8 months of the Pequot War, the Pequot never lost a battle to the English, McBride said. Tactically, the Pequot were superior, even without firearms. There you go. You see, Gad and Reuben, they were getting busy, getting down on Esau. The English could not figure them out. Up until the Mystic Massacre, the Pequot had won every engagement. Let's see. Now, I kind of want to find some more details about what happened. It says, so this is the details about that event that took place. It says the Connecticut towns raised a Puritan militia commanded by Captain John Mason, consisting of 90 men plus 70 Mohegans under Sachems, Uncas, and Wikash. All right, so he got some men together. I'm gonna skip down. It says on the night of May 26, 1637, the colonial and Indian forces arrived at the fortified Pequot village, which was on a low hill near the Mystic River. The large village was surrounded by a palisade with only two exits. The colonial forces first attempted a surprise attack, but they withdrew after stiff resistance from the Pequot. In response, Mason ordered that the village should be set ablaze and its two exits blocked off. As the fire raged, many trapped Pequots were shot as they attempted to escape by climbing over the palisade. Those men, women, and children who did get out were killed by Narragansett fighters. Let's look this up. It says Narragansett is a town in Washington County, Rhode Island, in the United States. Captain John Underhill described the scene as his participation. Quote, Captain Mason, entering into a wigwam, brought out a firebrand after he had wounded many in the house. Then he set fire on the west side where he entered. Myself set fire on the south end with a train of powder. The fires of both meeting in the center of the fort blazed most terribly and burned all in the space of half an hour. Many courageous fellows were unwilling to come out and fought most desperately through the palisados. Let's look that up. It says palisados is a thin tombolo of sand that serves as a natural protection. Now let's go into something else. Let me see. The word palisado means palisade. Alright, it makes more sense. Yeah, it means palisade. So as they were scorched and burnt with the very flame and were deprived of their arms, in regard the fire burnt their very bowstrings, and so perished valiantly. Mercy they did deserve for their valor. Could we have had opportunity to have bestowed it? Many were burnt in the fort, both men, women, and children. Others forced out and came in troops to the Indians, 20 and 30 at a time, which our soldiers received and entertained with the point of the sword. See? Because they had something called bayonets. Now, if you don't know what a bayonet is, let me show you. See? So you have the gun, and then you have the sharp point at the end. You know, almost like a sword. And you could poke somebody with it. That's a bayonet. Alright? So it says, with us, which our soldiers received and entertained with the point of the sword. They could have used physical swords or maybe bayonets. I'd have to research it further. Now fell men, women, and children. Those that escaped us fell into the hands of the Indians that were in the rear of us. It is reported by them, because you had sellouts. It is reported by themselves that there were about 400 souls in this fort, and not above 5 of them escaped out of our hands. Damn. See? So this is this devil. Hundreds of Pequots were killed. The colonists reported that only 5 village occupants escaped, while 7 were taken prisoner. So 5 escaped, 7 were taken prisoner. This was the first example of total war by colonists in the New World. And we looked up the word colonist. It don't mean just somebody that came over here just to chill. No, they came to colonize. They came to take over, to conquer. That's why they're also called conquistadors, conquerors. The word total war is a type of warfare that includes any and all civilian associated resources and infrastructure as legitimate military targets, mobilizes all of the resources of society to fight the war, and gives priority to warfare over non-combatant needs. Let's see. Maybe the conventional dictionary will give us a little more. Total war. Military conflict in which the contenders are willing to make any sacrifice in lives and other resources to obtain a complete victory. Damn. So that's how these devils' mindset was. They'll do anything in order to get rid of Gad. They didn't care how many people they slaughtered, how many people they killed, as long as they got the job done. See? So a lot of people mark that as the beginning of so-called Thanksgiving. Regardless, the popular telling of the initial harvest festival is what lived on, thanks to Abraham Lincoln. Let's see. The Thanksgiving peace didn't last. Massaut, the Wampanoag paramount chief, allied with the English settlers. Remember, Sirach 12 and 10, never trust thine enemy. With the English settlers after Plymouth was established and fought with the newcomers against the French and other local tribes. Like I said, you had sellouts. But the alliance became strained over time. Why? Because it's like oil and water. You can't mix Jacob versus Esau. As thousands more English colonists moved to Plymouth, remember that word colonize, to take over forcibly, all right? Taking over more land, there you go. That's what they came to do. Authorities asserted control over most aspects of Wampanoag life, according to the book Historic Contact, Indian People and Colonists in Today's Northeastern United States. A study published in the journal Quaternary Science Reviews estimated that disease had already reduced the New England indigenous population by 90% by 1620. The Wampanoag continued to die from what the colonists called Indian fever, an unknown disease brought by early European settlers, brought by Esau. By the time Massaut's son, Metacomet, who was known to the English as King Philip, inherited leadership, relations had frayed. His men were executed for the murder of Ponkapog interpreter, a Christian convert, John Sossamon, sparking King Philip's war. It says, of course this demon got to pull up next to me. It says, Wampanoag warriors responded with raids, and the English Confederation of Colonies declared war in 1675. The war was bloody and devastating. See? So that so-called peace ain't last long. Alright? Now, so it's another article. So you get the message. The so-called peace ain't last long. Some say, there's different debate as to which event marks the beginning of Thanksgiving. A lot of people point to that 1637 incident as the beginning of so-called Thanksgiving. I have another article pulled up. It says Truth Giving, the true history of Thanksgiving, and how you can support Native communities this holiday and beyond. It says, Thanksgiving is a time for celebration, good food, and giving thanks. So as we gather with family, crush unworldly amounts of stuffing, and enjoy a football game in the crisp autumn air, let's also acknowledge the real history of the holiday and practice gratitude by giving back. So let's hop down. What's the real story of Thanksgiving? It says, the Pilgrims had hardly explored the shores of Cape Cod for 4 days before they had robbed the graves of my ancestors and stolen their corn and beans. Keyword, stolen. What does it say about the thief? John 10:10. The thief cometh but for to steal and kill and to destroy. It says, Wam Suda, Frank James, Wampanoag activist and organizer of the National Day of Mourning. The first Thanksgiving, as a lot of folks understand, was in 1621 between the Pilgrims of Plymouth Colony and the Wampanoag tribe in present-day Massachusetts. While records indicate that this celebration did happen, there are a few misconceptions we need to clear up. Because of the erasure, in other words, removal and exclusion of Native American narratives from the histories a lot of us were taught, we've been left with an incomplete picture of what really happened. So here's the full story. There's no evidence that the Wampanoag people were ever invited in the first place. An account from the tribe said 90 members of the Wampanoag tribe were present and makes no mention of invitations. Some experts believe that these 90 men were an army sent by Wampanoag leader Alsamekin at the sound of gunshots, which turned out to be part of the celebration. In their first encounter with the Wampanoag people, Pilgrims stole from the tribe's winter provisions. Provisions means foodstuffs. It wasn't until later that Alsamequin formed an alliance between the groups. Even then, the alliance really only existed because the Wampanoag people were ravaged by diseases brought by European colonizers in the years prior means before. It was less about intercultural harmony and more about survival made necessary by the actions of these settlers, which were whom? Colonizers, Esau, the so-called white man. That first harvest was followed by deadly conflicts between colonizers and native people, including but definitely not limited to the Wampanoag. The Europeans repaid their native allies by seizing native land and imprisoning, enslaving, and executing native people. Following, quote, Thanksgiving celebrations by European settlers often marked brutal victories over native people, like the Pequot Massacre of 1636, like we read about before, or the beheading of Wampanoag leader Metacom in 1676. See? So, hey, Esau, he got a lot of dirt. Regardless of its, whether or not they actually sat together and had that feast or not, regardless, Esau still broke over 500 plus peace treaties with Gad. Alright? And he had no problem with slaughtering the Native American tribes. Look what he did to the Pequot. Alright? Look what he did to them. See? And Jacob constantly tried to make peace with this devil. He ain't looking for peace. Alright? As is written, continually are they gathered together for war. Alright? He ain't looking for peace. He ain't looking for trying to make peace. Alright? Esau's looking for war. He's not looking for shaking hands. Alright? That's the true history of this devil. Now, you can always read, more into this. There's a bunch of different articles going into, deeper, alright, concerning the so-called Thanksgiving. Alright? So, with that, I'm going to leave it there. The point's been made. All praise, honors, and glories be unto Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Quadash, the Malanas, my apostle, notice, Ray Milson. Peace and blessings to thee, like Shalom.